everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Regina and this video is all about planting our onion seedlings out into the garden. Alright, so today is February 7th, 2022, and we planted these onion seedlings. This is just one tray of them. Planted these back in November, and they have been growing inside under the grow lights ever since. So now it is time to get them planted out into the garden. So I'm going to plant them out in my raised bed here. It's a 4x8 raised bed. I'll put the camera on it in a bit. The sun was in my eyes, so I had to kind of turn this way. But get these planted out in the raised bed so they can start growing and hopefully get us some onions in a few months. So I'm growing two types of onions, and I'll put a link to the video where I planted these seedlings. But I'm growing two types. These are the Texas Super Sweet or I think that's what they're called, the Texas. I'll put the variety on the camera, and then a red variety as well. And so I'm planting these out into the raised bed. I'm using 4-inch on-center spacing, so that means 9 onions per square foot, 32 square feet. That gives me about 200 and I believe 76, I don't know, something like that. Quite a few onions that I'm planting out into this raised bed. So what I have to do is take this raised bed, I'm gonna cover it in compost, and a layer of compost, and then after that, I'm gonna get these onions planted. Okay, so here is the raised bed. It's the one on the end in my garden. I was actually gonna use the one right next to it, but I chose this one instead because that one still found a few fire ants in there, so I'm gonna do a few more treatments with orange oil in some of those spots, and I didn't want to plant directly into that. So this one is already fine. I'm gonna pull up, make sure none of this little grass and stuff that's hanging out in it has any roots, and then I'll be topping it with a few bags of compost, just a couple of inches, to make sure the soil is fertile and ready to take care of those onions that we have growing. Okay, so I've just spread 8 cubic feet of compost over the bed that I'm about to plant the onions in. Not that bad, it's actually this bed. Just in a weird position because of where the sun is. Trying to keep it out of my eyes so I'm not all squinting, but now they're shadows, but whatever. We are outside, right? Can't be perfect. So now I am about to add in some fertilizer to the soil, and I'm going to till that into the top couple of inches, and by till I just mean use this little baby hoe that belongs to one of my children and use that to mix it in. I'm using this fertilizer. I already had this from last season. It's just Miracle Grow Organics. It's high nitrogen. It's a 927, and that's what onions need when you first plant them into the garden. At this stage of the onion's life, it is growing foliage, and you want it to grow as much foliage as possible before the bulbing process sets in, which short day onions, that's 10 to 12, that's when the day length reaches 10 to 12 hours, but usually it starts around like that 11-hour mark when they start bulbing. So right now, once I get these into this bed, I want them to grow lots and lots of leaves. I mean, they don't really look like leaves, but you know what I mean. So I want them growing lots of foliage. And so this 927 fertilizer will help. It's not just nitrogen, but but it does have, I mean, it has all the nutrients the onions are gonna need, but high on the nitrogen side. I used this last year. I like it. It worked great for me. I used it a lot on my brassicas and my okra. The plants that I had that I know were like nitrogen hungry. And then there's another one, a more balanced one that I used for some of my other plants like tomatoes and stuff. Now I've used other fertilizers as well that have worked great, but right now it's just been, I have this, I'm gonna use it. I'm trying to research some that I can buy a little bit more in bulk, maybe buy some online straight from some companies so that maybe I can save a little money, and because this stuff is a little expensive in my opinion. But it does work well. So I'm going to sprinkle this onto the soil, see if I can set up the camera so that you guys can see that. And then it'll be time to actually put the onions in. Yay! Hoping we can get it done before the sun goes down, before I need to run inside and make some dinner. Yeah, so let's see. So I'm not measuring this out. I'm literally just going to sprinkle it onto the soil and mix it in. All right, it's mixed in enough. So now I'm gonna get these onions, we're gonna get them planted. Let me see if I can get in a good position so I can show you what these plants are looking like. Okay, so here are my onion plants again. When I plant these, I'm just going to, notice they are in cell trays. So, and there's multiple ones in each cell tray. So, just gonna pop them out. Okay. Just pull it out of the cell tray. I kind of squeezed it from the bottom. And this is what it looks like. Lots of roots. They are ready to come out of these. I'm glad we're having such good weather this week. Believe it or not, a week ago we had a snow and ice storm. And the ground, there's still some ice on the ground actually, even though it's about 60 degrees out right now. But in shady spots there's still ice. Alright, so what I have to do, show you up close, what I have to do is just pull these apart. Try to do it on camera. And I like to kind of use my hand because I don't want to hurt my little baby plants that I've worked so hard to grow, but loosen them up. Now, onion plants are really strong. They have very fibrous roots, so they can take a little exercise and then pull them apart. The soil is a little moist still. They're not completely dry or anything. All right, so now here I have an onion plant. Here's one. So this particular cell had 3. See the roots still there, 2 and 3. So I'll be separating these kind of as I go. Do a row of holes and then separate a row of plants because I don't want their roots to dry out. And get them planted into the bed. Let's see if I can. I haven't done an outdoor segment yet, so I got to figure out all my camera positioning. But here are 3 of the plants, and I'll be doing about, I don't know, 250 of these. So, okay, so now I'm just going to make the holes in the bed. I'm doing 3 per square foot across. Then I need space for 12 onions across this bed. I'm going to go grab my tape measure. Alright, so hopefully this angle is a little bit better and you can see. So here's my onion plant. And so when you plant it, obviously you want to bury the roots of the onion, but you only want to bury like up to this white part. You don't want to bury really any further than that. The onion itself doesn't need to be underground. It actually grows better just a little bit on top of the ground. So bury the roots, and you can bury like the bottom of the white part, but you don't need to bury the entire white part of the onion because that's where the onion's going to grow, and it's going to grow better above the ground where it has a little bit more space to expand. The soil, if it compacts around the onion, that will restrict the growth of the onion. And yeah, so let's get this in here. So definitely bury it deep enough to stand up, but you don't want to bury it too deep. Then you'll have to kind of dig around it a little later. So squeeze the bottom out. Kind of shake it up in my hands. Actually, I'm going to do a few more coming this way. Now, my spacing is not going to be perfect for my onions. And then I pull them apart. 1, 2. Now notice I'm staggering the holes because that gives the onions a little bit more space so that they're not straight lined up with each other right here. It's more here and then here, here and then here. Look at these little babies, they're so cute. Okay, now some of these guys are a little bit... So one thing I did mean to do that I'm about to do right now is I meant to give these guys to trim them. Because you see how tall they are. I've already trimmed these things, I want to say 4 times since they've been growing. I'm going to trim these guys down. 1, because it'll help them stand up a little straighter. And 2, right now I'm kind of jostling them around. And of course, onions are perfectly fine with being transplanted, but it'll be easier for them to establish themselves if there isn't so much foliage up here to support. So I'm going to trim that off. So let me get the rest of these guys planted that I had already pulled out. This one is teeny weeny, so I'm going to leave that one to the side and use it if I need to. Okay, so I have a little plastic bag because I'm going to keep these. These are completely edible and they're actually really delicious. They have like a, I mean, they taste like green onions essentially. Nice mild onion flavor. So I am going to use these. I'm actually going to put these in the dehydrator. I have some in the refrigerator from the last time I cut them, and we've been eating them on chili and baked potatoes, and I've been throwing them into pots of food just to add extra onion flavor. And so these I'm going to dehydrate and make them into, well, essentially dehydrated green onions that I can use as seasoning. At least the ones that I grabbed. Some of them I'm missing. Let me do my other tray as well. Okay, so I'm going to move my tape measure. Don't need this anymore. All right, back to planting. Okay, so I'm going to continue planting these onions. Other tips to keep in mind. Okay, this one is sown really thickly, so I most likely have more onion plants than I need. So when I have ones that don't look really great or they're just much smaller than the others, those are the ones that I'm going to skip and not use. But I'm going to plant probably about 2/3 of these yellow onions, and then, or white onions, and about 1/3 of the red onions. So I'm gonna get this going. I don't think I have enough battery power to record the whole thing, so I'm gonna finish these up, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so all of the onions are planted in the bed, and now I'm gonna water and then see if I can get some mulch down before it gets dark. The sun has started going down and the temperature has started dropping. Actually, it has gotten kind of cold out here, but I think I can take it because I really like for things to be done and not half done. I want to finish it tomorrow. All right, so here's a look at the bed. Right now, I will say I did not get, I didn't get nearly all of my onions in this bed. I have so many left. So I know some of them I'll probably end up having to throw away, but I'm gonna leave them outside now that it's not gonna get freezing or anything. So it's not gonna get so cold tonight, but I'm gonna leave them outside on my picnic table. And then I'm gonna find a few pockets of the garden that maybe I can tuck them into, but since these beds aren't prepped yet for spring planting, I can't really plant them. I have one bed down there on the end, all the way on the end, that is ready to go, but the rest of these are not. So I think I'm gonna try to maybe squeeze a couple down there, and then I might just take some of these grow bags because there's so many out here. These buckets that had my tree collards that passed away sadly, I might empty these out and put some onions in those. I just don't want to waste them. And plus, I did not pack this bed as tightly as I was thinking I would because I was worried that the onions wouldn't get big enough. So I didn't quite stick to my spacing, and because I didn't quite measure it, it's hard to estimate, and that was taking too long. So, but they are all planted. They look great. I'm about to water these guys, and then I have mulch in my car I need to go get so I can mulch them really nicely so that they stay moist and that the roots are taken care of, and you know all the good things that mulch does. So yeah. And one other tip I want to give so I don't forget is that compost. Instead of going to the big box stores right off the bat, I recommend just Googling bulk compost near me or compost suppliers near me, and you may be able to find a local supplier of compost. This is the first year I've done that, and I feel like a total dummy for not and for paying so much money. I bought compost. It costs 1/3 of the price of what I've paid at the home improvement stores, and it was better quality. The last time I got compost at the home improvement store, the cow manure one, it was smelly, it wasn't fully broken down, it attracted flies, it was a mess. Now I've also gotten good stuff too, so it hasn't all been bad, but this compost that I got at a local recycling compost thing, it was 1/3 of the price. So much cheaper, and it was just really, really good quality. I mean, look at that soil, y'all. So that is something you definitely want to do, especially if you have a pretty large garden, but even for a small one, if the place is close by, it's probably just as easy to get. So always look and see what other types of compost suppliers you can find. And same thing for mulch. They generally will offer mulch too. All right, so let me get this bed watered and mulched and be ready to go. Okay, and there is the finished product. This mulch is really dark brown, so it kind of looks like soil, but that is mulch. And I kind of, it's a whole vibe. I like it. I like the look of it. So this is done. These are the onions. Yay! So thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. Onions are planted. Last year I harvested onions at the beginning of June, so I'm guessing there'll be a similar timeline this year. So we will see how they go. Hopefully they get really, really gigantic and they're all really delicious and everything goes well. But once again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, help your girls video get out to more people. I'd love to grow my channel in that way. And here's one last look at those beautiful onions. All right, so have a good one.